Word is up, everybody. Alright, so what are we doing today? So we're going to take a quick peek at the current deck I'm using for the little bit of a community tournament that we're doing right now through our Discord. Uh, I'm not worried about telling people what the deck is because all the deck lists are public. So if you're one of my opponents and you're like, I'm getting all the information, you can just look at my deck list and figure it out anyway. So we're just going to jump into it. It's a little bit of a meme. The whole point of the deck is to get Leonite or Sonicore out with some protection, like Hammer of Hephaestus. Uh, I like to call it Ketchup Mustard Control. In the tournament, it's listed as Condiment Control. Take your pick. I think both are kind of funny. Uh, the ketchup is Leonite, the mustard is Sonicore. They do the same but different. Leonite stops Invoke runes, while Sonicore will stop counter runes. And they have sizable bodies at 7. That matches pretty much all the other 2-drops, and with Hammer they will get a little bit bigger, so they can kind of punch a little bit above their weight class. So, how do we get them out? We have to stall. So some of our stall package is Riceros. If we're playing against a non-Thunder deck, Riceros just goes, hey you can't attack right now. Astrabbit will get us a little bit of filtering. Kinleo at 4 will generally stay alive. And we can Nexus to destroy an Elestral on the opponent's field, so potentially we can play Kinleo, Hephaestus on 3, use Hephaestus to find our hammer, and then use Kinleo to Nexus 1 from Hephaestus, leaving Hephaestus play, destroy something, attack for 2, get some removal going. That way. We have a couple Spark hits. I find a lot of issues with my 1-drops in my decks not having enough attack. So 4-1 is fine, and if it's a late game scenario, you can potentially lock your opponent's hand with Spark Hit, so I put 2 in the deck just to try out. I have 2 Nectar of the Gods. Maybe I should have gone 3, but I figured 2 Nectar Gods, 3 Ash Rabbits would be alright. Again, what I mentioned with Spark Hit, I need some more attack, so I put a couple Necrof in for the 5-1, just a nice big attack or something that can break through, the other 1-drops. A couple Thunderstorms for rune removal if there's a pesky rune in the field. I already played my game against Jay Johnny at this point. I did go and lose, but in one of the games we played as a friendly match after the original match, he played a game where he played Aeolus and Exaltair, and I just blew up the Aeolus for 3 for Thunderstorm and played Quackle, so it's basically free. It's a pretty good card. It's expensive for a lot of other rune removal options, but it's a good card. I got 3 Ambrosias because his control deck needs to stay alive. 2 Poison Tips to kind of, so the 4 defense blockers generally will die to any of the 5 attack or 1-drops. This will keep the 4 defenses alive to, say, like Necrof. To say maybe a P-Gust, depending. But it will generally keep my 4s and 3s alive from a 5 attacker. And if they only play some face downs, I can then ascend, say, my Astrabbit right into Sonicore and just attack back without losing the additional expend from Arrow. Shield of Achilles is a great removal card. I put 2 in the deck because that's generally my option against bigger threats than my threats. If I have Sonicore in play, I'm kind of SOL with being able to play this, but it's an option. That's why I only run a couple of each, because if I do get the Sonicore out, they are dead cards. Same thing with, I don't run a ton of Invoke runes, because, again, if I get out Leonite, they're dead cards. And then I have some hard removal with Boombat and Kinleo. The biggest threat to this deck is decks that run multiple removal types. So if a deck is running both Kinleo, Earthquake, and Counter Runes, or Kinleo slash Boombat, well, basically, yeah, if they're running the 3 different types, it's a little bit rough because this deck likes to say, okay, what are the 2 types of removal you have? Let me focus on getting those down. And if those 2 types of removal are Invoke runes and Celestial effects, then I can play a Leonite with Hammer. If those 2 things are counter runes and Celestial effects, I can play Sonicore with Hammer. If it's Invoke runes and counter runes as removal, then I can get Leonite out first and then Sonic out second if I can stall long enough. So that's generally the idea of the deck. I think it's somewhat straightforward. It's just kind of pseudo rush to Sonic or Leonite, depending on which one you need. Try to defend the combo early to get it out, and then just try to hope it sticks. It's a little bit of a mean deck. I mean, I'm running 6 2-drops, which is a lot of 2-drops for most decks. And it works pretty well. My playtesting games I've played with it, it does pretty well against non-aggro, like against mid-range control stuff, because I just kind of have to choose 2 of the 3 most prevalent removal and dodge the rest. So against like super heavy control that runs like 3 Laurels, 3 Earthquakes, I'm dropping the Leonite first, and I'm just not attacking until I get Sonicore out. And that's generally the goal. So I do have one matchup coming up where I'm playing a super heavy control deck. If I can drop Leonite and a Hammer of Festus early, and then just kind of coast until I can get the Sonicore out to start attacking, they have no way to really deal with that. So unless they very meticulously pick away at my board. But at that point, they're spending a lot of cards when I'll be spending a few cards just to set up and draw cards to get to the point I need to be. And then, so that's the main deck. This event is using the sideboard rule. And obviously I have my spirits, so we'll start with my spirits. It's fairly straightforward. I have 12 and 8. I was thinking 11 and 9, but I do need a lot of thunder for like the thunderstorm and stuff early if I have to. And I honestly only need 5 fire theoretically to get enough fire to do, like Leonite Hammer and Hephaestus. So I have enough for that and a few extra for like the Kinleos or Necrof plays. So 8 is good enough. Maybe 9 would be better, but I find 8 is enough. And then I've got a very interesting sideboard. So I have Laurels for some of the very heavy aggressive kind of Aeolus decks and stuff like that. It's a way that even if I have a small board, I can blow stuff up that has bigger boards. Mustation is weird. I'll go over him last while he's in the deck with no water. Gorgon's Gaze, because it's just a solid card to answer. An extra hammer, if my opponent has a ton of rune removal, I will play the extra hammer in the deck just so I have an extra option to keep, my hammer alive. And then I have 3 Pandora's Boxes. That's for decks that have like the Exaltair Aeolus search stuff, for decks that maybe would have run Stratomoth. A few options for Pandora's Box, it'll stop other like hammer searches and stuff like that. So Pandora's Box is just, the general deck search stopper. It's a great sideboard card. Gorgon's Gaze, it's good at stopping Elestral effects like Kinleo. It's good at stopping Ascensions from happening if they're trying to rush to like a Majesty or something, because Majesty is a little bit difficult to deal with my deck. So Gorgon's Gaze will slow that down. And then why do I have Mustation here in my sideboard and I run no water? Purely because it's a 1/6. It is, if I'm going up against another Thunder deck and my Riceros is basically useless because it won't be using its effect, Mustation is a way that I can drop a big defender that my opponent won't be able to break on turn 1. Whereas if I play Riceros and my opponent's playing, Thunderfire attack aggro, and they play Necrof Misenchanted with Thunder, they can destroy my Riceros. They wouldn't be able to destroy my Station without spending an additional card. So he's just a 1/6 blocker for early game in place of Riceros, and I just misenchant him every time. And that's all. So that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. I might post some highlights later on in the week about what happened in the tournament. And with that, like, subscribe. Appreciate you guys listening. Yeah, you guys have a great day. Peace.